So this is part 1 of a series of 12 talks that I'm planning to do once a month from now on. It will always be at the last week, the last weekend, the last Saturday of every month. And we're going to go step by step every 7 years, those periods of life which are really connected with certain turning points and things that we really need to take into account if we want to have a better idea what is affecting us and what the sky is trying to maybe tell us to take into account while we simply run around and live our normal everyday lives. So here we're starting from birth to age 7. And to me, this is something that I don't have a direct experience for. I don't have small children yet, and I've not been really involved in bringing up small children. But the point is actually not so much about children directly. This topic is about every one of us. We all have been there at some point in our lives. And the most important thing that I decided to organize this event for today is to somehow try to explain how much this early period of life affects us on a very deep, subconscious, and very often unknown way that stays with us throughout the course of our whole lives and really affects many other things that are not directly connected to childhood. Maybe we would never even think that a certain issue that we're dealing with later in life, relationships, work problems, day-to-day matters, whatever it might be, actually has a very direct link to what happened to us in those early days of our lives. And in these meetings, I want to offer you something slightly different from what you may have heard elsewhere or read elsewhere. This is like a little theory that I have been discussing at home with my partner, who's also interested in astrology. He's not an astrologer, but he knows a lot. And I need to give him credit because some of this is his idea. And I took that from him and decided to try to develop a little bit like one step ahead and see what you guys also think about it as we go along. I hope that today will be interesting and somehow you would get some tips for yourselves which are practical, and you can keep joining me every month. So we build up the whole picture, the whole process, as this is at the end of the day a life cycle that we're going to be looking at, a cycle that affects us all. It's the human generic stages of development, where the most important thing is for the influences and the internal processes to combine in a proper way so that we live through the period in a healthy fashion and then move on to the next one without carrying with us too many problems and unrealized or wrongly developed traits that then pushes back or make it difficult to progress into the cycle. So here I wanted to say that there is one planet connected, I believe, to each one of those 7 year periods, which really rules the atmosphere and the main task of that period. And I just wanted to spotlight it, to say to you, I think that's really important. And we should make an effort, either yourselves, if you are already studying astrology and you're quite into it, or you can speak to somebody that's practicing, to delve deeper into what's going on with this particular planet at this particular 7-year stage. And today, that will be the moon, you would see in a minute. But then it's going to be, I will go a little bit ahead of myself to open the door to what comes next in the next meetings. So you have a feeling of my overall team, and let's test it together. And hopefully you can also tell me whether you agree with us. The moon in the first 7 years is the key planet, especially in the first half of those first 7 years. Then a slight transition begins to happen in the second half, and especially as we reach the end of it, around 6-7, that's when Saturn also enters the picture. The whole childhood period up to the 14th year is under the rule of this pair of planets, the moon and Saturn, but I am split And I think that in the middle, we have them mixed up in a way, in a very peculiar way, which actually confuses children and parents even more, or people who are around the parents. But then at the end of the 14-year period, Saturn actually takes over properly and even begins to prepare for the next stage. Then we have 14 to 21, 21 to 28, 28 to 35, 35 to 42, and so on and so forth. And in each one, I know in some books you may have already read about this, but my version of it doesn't totally coincide. And I'm connecting the second 14-year period with Uranus and Mercury. Then the next one with Venus-Neptune pair. After that, we go into another stage of life, which I think has a lot to do with Mars-Pluto. And at the end, almost at the end, we have the Sun together with the planet Jupiter. And the very last two periods of the 12 sections, which are very deep old age, we're very much, I mean, there is time until we get there, but that would be a continuation to the solar/Jupiter period. Anyway, this is just to give you a general view of where I'm going with all this.